Welcome to episode 5 of the Weekly Take podcast. I'm your host, Dominick Joseph, and today we'll be talking the Conor McGregor fight versus Khabib, NFL Week 5 recaps, the NFL 6 picks, and NBA headlines going into this week. So to start off, let's talk about the Conor McGregor and Khabib fight. I watched the whole fight, actually. I didn't watch any of the beginning fights, but I did watch the final finale, and what I could say is that Khabib really lost his shot at, I understand McGregor was really, talking a lot of shit and doing all that kind of stuff, but, at the end of the day, Khabib won the fight at the end, and he could have just shook his hand, been professional about it, and it would have been over. His win wouldn't have had, a taint on it. His win's a little bit tainted after about how he acted. There's all this, is he going to get his belt? Is he going to get paid? Is he going to get suspended? Is he going to get shipped back home? There's all these things that are they shouldn't have been there and wouldn't have been there if he wouldn't have acted this way. So I think if Khabib really would have just been more professional, it would have been way better of a fight. Obviously, when it came to strikes and punching, McGregor won the fight. That's his moral victory of the day. But, on the ground, Khabib is such a better wrestler than him. And when it comes down to that in the UFC, someone has a weakness, you expose it, and that's exactly what he did going into this fight. He knew McGregor could probably knock him out, if he put himself in that situation. So he, put himself in a position he was most comfortable in winning, and that was wrestling. And to me, I just think it was a really good fight. It was a little bit boring. It wasn't the most hitting, but it was kind of nice to see Khabib win after McGregor was talking all that stuff about him. But that is McGregor's persona, and I don't know how much he meant all that stuff. But when you start talking about religion and all that kind of thing, fathers, country, some people don't take that lightly, and obviously Khabib was not messing around. So now moving into the NFL Week 5 recap, I just wanted to talk about what happened last week in the picks and just overall really what happened to every game, because I know a lot of people like to hear about how their team did, and I know some podcasts just talk about the big things, but I like to go through every game. The Colts at Patriots was the Thursday night game last Thursday in New England. I didn't really expect the Colts to give this game. If the Colts would have had a better defense and not let the Patriots score 38, it could have been, a way better game, obviously. But, Andrew Luck has no help on the other side of the ball. He can go put up 7, but his defense is going to let 7 happen again, so he's going to have to, and you don't score every drive. So I just think the Colts just, they're not the best team in the AFC at all. They're just a little handicapped right now. I just think they don't have a good defense. And at least New England can get a couple stops here and there, and their offense is going to score almost every time, whether that be 3 or 7. I don't remember a time where they had to punt it, This game was kind of boring. It wasn't the most entertaining Thursday night game just because everyone kind of knew the Patriots were going to win. Unlike this Thursday where it's going to be pretty interesting, I believe. Then going into Sunday, October 7th, Titans at Buffalo. This was a game I picked last week. I had the Titans. That was I didn't even need to think. And the Bills shocked me once again. They beat the Titans, and I had no idea that the Bills had this potential to beat a team like the Titans, because I'm really hyping the Titans. And, after losing to the Bills, now everyone's kind of oh, the Titans are kind of back to where they were. But I don't really know what to expect. The Bills kind of have some light showing. They have a talented team, but the Titans, have a more talented team, and for them to lose like that, it was pretty crazy. The Titans didn't really come into play. I think they kind of overlooked the Bills, and the Bills, did whoop on Minnesota, and I think Minnesota is better than the Titans, so I don't think the Bills should be slept on, especially at home. That crowd gets really crazy. Moving into the Atlanta Steeler game, the only takeaway I could really say from this is that the Falcons are bad. Their offense can't get nothing going with all those weapons. You have 2 good running backs. You have 3 solid receivers and a good quarterback, and you still can't and a good tight end, and you still can't put up more than 17 against the Steelers. I get the Steelers are coming off a loss against Baltimore. That was real embarrassing on Sunday night, but you can't, go into Pittsburgh and just put up 17. I get Pittsburgh going in the Heinz is a big deal, but the Steelers, I think, needed this and wanted this game more than Atlanta. I think that's why it played a bigger part. I just think Atlanta's offense is just pathetic this year. Maybe next year they get a new coach. I just don't think Matt Ryan likes the new system this year. You don't really need a system when you could lob it up to 11, but that doesn't work every time. You got Calvin Ridley, you got Sanu, you got Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Hooper. Those guys should be all getting the ball. And if you can't get them all the ball, I bet you that's kind of hard to negotiate. But, you got to get something going. Moving into the Denver at Jets game, I had no clue the Jets could come back and kind of be a good team. The offense looked fantastic, and their D-line looked fantastic. They're in New York. New York's hard to win. Denver was traveling from Denver to New York, and that's a time zone switch, so I'll give them that. But still, Denver, I think Denver is pretty underrated. I think Denver is pretty good. I just don't really like Case Keenum. I think if they had a better quarterback, Demaryius Thomas would get something going. Emmanuel Sanders, Phillip Lindsay's playing phenomenal. I think the quarterback is their missing piece. I don't think he's the answer. I just think the Broncos need to get a better quarterback, and then they'll get going. They overpaid him quite a bit. So the Jets were amazing at home. I couldn't believe my eyes to see they whooped on them that bad. A couple big turnovers, and the game's over. And in a loud place like New York, it's going to happen. Jaguars at Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs would, just barely win this game, and they stomped on them. I said this last week. I like the Jaguars a lot, but I don't like the offense and how it just stalls. Most games I watch with the Jaguars are kind of boring. They're really slow kind of paced team, especially on offense, and it's just like there's nothing really big happening. They don't got like a Odell or anything. Leonard Fournette's out, so you're really just watching Blake Bortles, and he didn't really leap off the screen to me, and he couldn't really get anything going. The Chiefs' offense is just looking like the team to beat this year. The Chiefs that offense is looking like Denver's back when Peyton Manning got there with Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Eric Decker. I think they had, I don't remember their running back. C.J. Anderson, I might have been. But yeah, that team was stacked, and that's what this Chiefs offense kind of reminds me of. And Pat Mahomes is playing lights out right now, especially in Kansas City. Moving into Green Bay at Detroit. Green Bay had this game. They were down 14-0 at the end of the first, and the easy finger to point is at the kicker. Kickers are missing way too much nowadays, and I think it's making it a little bit more interesting as an NFL fan to be like, okay, well, he's not necessarily going to make it every time, but as an NFL team or NFL quarterback, you're expecting these guys to make it. So as a fan, it's interesting to see all these misses, but I know when my team misses by a field goal, I'm outrageous. So I just think, Mason Crosby would have made those 4 field goals. Obviously, they would have won the game. But, there's a lot more holes. What if Aaron Rodgers would have got it a couple more first downs and got him closer? Why don't we blame the offense instead of blaming the kicker, So Detroit played good at home. Kerryon Johnson, I thought was a big factor in this game, that rushing attack. When you have to respect the run game and Matt Stafford can take control of that and lob it over the top, I think that's really good. And when Green Bay only has someone like HaHa Clinton-Dix in the backfield, and that's it, I think, Detroit wasn't really worried about that if they don't throw it to his side. So they did a really good job, and I like the game plan in Detroit that game. Ravens at Browns. As a Ravens fan, I was pretty bummed out about this loss, but the Browns are a good team this year. I think they could be 5-0 if they, started Baker week 1 and they had this mentality all the way through. I think they could be a way better team. And the AFC North is looking like a really competitive division this year. The Steelers obviously being the worst one this year. It's just, I don't really know who to say is the worst in the division quite yet, because the Bengals are playing good, Ravens are playing good, Steelers are playing good, and the Browns are playing good. So that division is going to be pretty stacked throughout the year. So whoever comes out on top is going to be a pretty good, tough team in the playoffs. But again, Baker Mayfield played really good. He had like 6 third down conversions, and when it's 3rd and 12 and they let that big play happen in overtime, that momentum of the defense just goes, fuck, what do we do? And then all of a sudden 2 more plays and then it's a field goal. So I just think the Browns really just capitalized on momentum this game. Cleveland was loud for them. They got those 2 wins this year. That's double of what they had last year. So I think the Browns are pretty legit this year. I do think the Browns could possibly get upwards of 6 wins this year. That's my bold prediction. Giants at Panthers. The Giants lost a heartbreaker. The Giants are really trying to fight for that season this year, and they go and lose to Gano's 63-yard kick. That must have been outrageous. I know the Giants like to lose by those long field goals a lot. I know it happened to them from, I don't know if it was Detroit last year, but they lose by a lot of those long field goals. But the Panthers played really good. The Giants played really good. Their line actually gave Eli some time. I don't know if that was the Panthers' D-line's fault or the O-line was playing really good, but I really liked how the Giants' offense showed some light. That's their moral victory of the day. Moving into the Dolphins at Bengals game, the Dolphins had no really match for these Bengals. Bengals at home against that really good defensive line with Geno Atkins tied with TJ and JJ for the leading sacks this year with 6. I just think the Bengals are a good team. They're really well-rounded, and I just don't think they're going anywhere. I think, in division games against both Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland, it's those games are going to be really good. I hope those have better times than just the 10 o'clock times this year. But the Bengals offense looks great, and the defense, I really like the Bengals this year. The Raiders at Chargers. The Chargers needed to win this game. This is one of those games like I was thinking, if I'm picking the Chargers, they better win this game. I was like almost 90% sure they'd win this game. The Raiders started off strong, and they just, the Chargers have just a way better team. I don't think the Raiders deserved to win this game just because I don't know. The Chargers are a better team. Their offense looked better, defense looked better. Melvin Gordon was eating. Phillip Rivers was throwing all over him. He's a nominee for the FedEx Player of the Week. He's pretty legit. Cardinals at Niners. Man, I've had the Cardinals at the bottom of my power rankings every week. And for them to go and beat the 49ers like this, now I got to put them slightly. I don't know who to put last. I might have to put Oakland last, to be honest with you. But, the Cardinals played a really good game against the 49ers. Josh Rosen played really well. David Johnson played really well. The receivers played really well, too. And the defense got some turnovers. The Cardinals, if they could play that way every week, man, I think they could beat Seattle both times, or they could beat, I don't know if they could beat LA, but, I think they could beat 49ers and the Seahawks both times if they play like that every game. But, that's not going to happen every game. The 49ers look sloppy on all aspects of the field, special teams, especially moving in the offense and defense. They look slow. I mean, I know they're missing their quarterback and they're missing their running back, so that's a big momentum shifter for the whole team. But you got to get something going if you're the 49ers. The Cardinals are like the bottom feeders of, they're fighting not to be last in the NFL. You gotta win this game. Vikings at Eagles. This was a good game, and I'm glad it was like one of the later games. I really expected Philly to kind of bounce back, like, okay, Wentz is back. We're going to get our offense going. Tough loss last week. Let's get this going. And they go and lose to the Vikings. The Vikings are pretty good. Kirk Cousins and that offense isn't no joke. That defense is good. He's in a perfect position to go far in the playoffs this year. But I just don't think that the Vikings look too great. I understand the Eagles are defending champs, but if the Vikings people are hyping them up to be who they really are, I think they should have won this game by at least 10. But win's a win. Philly just didn't look that good to me. That defense just looked really sloppy. And if Kirk Cousins is going to go throw over you like that, I hope, Carson Wentz would go put some points on the board. But there was a lot of punts this game, so that's really the game, what it was like for me watching it. Kind of just stagnant. It wasn't really boring, but it wasn't the most interesting game. Rams at Seahawks game, man, that was an interesting game. I usually root for the Seahawks, and I was rooting for the Seahawks this game. They were in Seattle. I thought they would be the one to knock off the Rams, and they almost did. And it just, Sean McVay, he's not afraid of risking anything, and that risk going for that 4th down late in the game, that was a big call, and it paid off, and now they're 5-0. So I just think the Rams are pretty legit this year. I didn't think Seattle would give them that big of a fight, except for that little chance I gave them. So I guess that doesn't really count, but I did say, maybe the Seahawks give it a game. The Seahawks, the run game actually looked really good against these Rams defensive line. I didn't think they could get the run game going against this good of a team. Sorry, I got phlegm in my throat there. But I just really think They underestimated them. The Rams underestimated Seattle with that run game, and I think Carroll drew up a good plan. Let's just run it right up the middle on them. And I don't think they're expecting that. Even with Aaron Donald and Dominick Sue, they could still get blocked. They're not unblockable. So for them to organize that game plan, I think that was a really good takeaway from that game. Russ played good. I think the Seattle Seahawks have the blueprint to go far, but will they do it every week? If they play like that every week, they would be the old Seahawks, but they're missing a lot of people, and that's hurting them. Moving into the Cowboys at Texans game, this game was like a fantasy game for me. I was really watching just for fantasy. I ended up losing, sadly. But the Cowboys, just, you're 4th and 1 in overtime. I'm going to go back to that play. You got to go for it. I know, it's a big risk, and I know their defense was doing really good, and I understand Jason Garrett is probably like, our defense has been kind of the highlight of this game, but I would have gone for it on the 4th and 1. I know they were backed up, but I just think that 1 yard would have got the crowd into it, got the team into it, got Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott pumped, and they would have went and scored and won. But, on the other hand, it's smarter to punt it and hope your defense does it. But Dallas don't have a player like DeAndre Hopkins. Not a lot of teams have a DeAndre Hopkins, Odell, AB, Julio kind of guy. They can just hope will make a big play in overtime like that. That's what Dallas was missing. They were missing a Dez Bryant type player. When they needed something to happen in overtime, it didn't happen because they don't have a playmaker. And when Dallas, or a team in general, doesn't have a playmaker like that, they're going to have to maintain let's run it first, let's run it again, let's pass it on 3rd down, and then all of a sudden it's 4th down and you're punting it. 1st down, you get a run. Maybe you lob it up to one of those big players. They don't get it. It's 3rd and long again. Maybe you get a good play. I know I'm not making too much sense here, but I'm just saying, like, in that situation, those big players bail you out of situations like that. And I think they were hoping DeMarcus Lawrence was going to be the big player on the defense, but it's harder to make plays necessarily like that on the defensive side of the ball. To me, personally, I think it would be. But no, I just think Dallas was really missing that playmaker. Dak Prescott looked decent. He had a couple big plays. If they would have won, they would have been everywhere. But since they lost, you can't really put that up. Deshaun Watson showed some light. The offensive line gave DeAndre Hopkins time too, but Deshaun Watson a lot of time. He had I think I was counting out loud one time, 8 seconds that guy had to throw, and he made a good throw. 8 seconds in the NFL, someone's going to be open. Moving into the Monday night game, Saints at Redskins, all I could really talk about in this game is Drew Brees breaking that record. That's phenomenal. A lot of people were doubting Brees when he first came into the league, but I think he's fantastic. He's just a really good player. That Saints team is just, I think they want to win it for him this year. They could very well. The running game's looking very well. Very good, not very well. But Kamara's really helping out Drew Brees' workload. I just think they're fantastic. Even the defense had some bright spots. I know the Redskins aren't the greatest team, but I think they were really planning for this game because they had a bye and they were going into New Orleans. They're probably like, all right, well, we're underdogs and maybe we could win this. But, I just think the Saints were a tougher team. The Redskins couldn't win, especially on Columbus Day. Redskins couldn't pull out the win. So moving into, let's mark this time down. So 19:01. Okay, so moving into the next week's picks, I'm going to go through who I picked and why. So to start it off, we have tonight's game against the Giants. The Giants are home against the Eagles. In this game, I got to go Philly. I don't think the Giants are going to come through. I think Philly's, really embarrassed about coming off these 2 losses. They're defending champs. They got to come back and win this game and maintain who they are in the NFC East. The NFC East is still up for grabs this year. I would not believe that. If you were to tell me the Eagles, the Giants, the Redskins, and the Cowboys would all be bad this year or not necessarily good, I would be shocked. This division is still up for grabs because they can't get their stuff together, and I think that's, if in an in-division game like this in front of everyone in America, I think it's going to be a good game, but I do think Philly comes out on top. Buccaneers at Falcons. I cannot pick the Bucs after what they were like against Chicago. Now they're coming off a bye. But I think even with Atlanta's sloppy defense, I still think Atlanta's going to win this game. It's just, I can't pick the Bucks this game because it's just I don't like how they played on offense against Chicago. Maybe they proved me wrong, but I think the chances Atlanta at home with that offense is still going to do good if they could get it going. If they don't get it going, Tampa Bay is going to run away with it. But I think they spark back this game. Moving into the Panthers at Redskins, I got to go. Why am I stalling? Panthers, because it's just I think Cam Newton is basically unstoppable to the Redskins. He plays good against them every time he plays them. I just think the Redskins don't have anyone to stop Cam Newton. I know they have Josh Norman, but I don't think that's going to be enough to stop him. In the situation where when you got to bring Cam Newton down, he's going to get past you. The offense is they're too good. Moving into the Seahawks at Raiders. Well, not really at Raiders because they're in London. I got to go Seattle because I can never pick Oakland ever. I say this every week. I cannot pick them just because I do not want to pick them, and every time I pick them, they do the opposite of what I do. So maybe they win this game in London, but I don't think Raiders are going to beat the Seahawks this week, so I got to go Seattle. I think the offense is going to play great, and if they can get a run game going like they did, use that same exact play calling they used against LA, they're going to whoop the Raiders in London. There's going to be all these London fans running around, and then all of a sudden there's going to be 12th man in London after this kind of game. I think they're going to whoop on them. Moving into the Colts at Jets, I think the Jets are going to win this game. I don't like Andrew Luck against these Jets. This defensive line is going to be putting on a show. Isaiah Crowell is going to run over that defense. I think the Jets are going to be legit. Jets, Jets this game. Arizona at Vikings, this is one of those games. It's like I don't really have to say much. I think the Vikings are going to destroy these Cardinals. I don't think Josh Rosen is going to get more than a touchdown this game. And if I get that wrong, call me out, but I do not think Josh Rosen will do anything against these Vikings this week. Steelers at Bengals, I got to go Bengals. I cannot pick against the Bengals at home this year with that offense, that defense. Geno Atkins is eating people alive this year. I know TJ Watt's also doing that, but I like the overall team as the Bengals. I know they haven't really got a playoff win, but it's not the playoffs right now. It's the regular season. They're a different team. And I like A.J. Green, and I like Andy Dalton's connection against the Steelers. These guys know each other very well. It's going to be a physical game. There's probably going to be some fights. There's probably going to be some ejections, but I think the Bengals win this game after that embarrassment, 4 years ago when Vontaze Burfict literally lost them the game by penalties. I think that's still in his mind. So I think the Bengals got to win this game. LA Chargers at Browns. I'm going to go Chargers this game. I just think the Cleveland Browns cannot stop Melvin Gordon and Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen. I know they got Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. They got all these tough players on defense, but I think this offense is better than that defense this year. So I'm going to go LA. Moving into the Bills at Texans, I got to go Texans just because I like DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson. I think them alone are enough to beat this team. And if they could get a couple big plays, I don't think Buffalo has a chance because I think Buffalo needs a long play drive. They need to set up who they are really early, and that's going to, all of a sudden it's going to be the third quarter, and you're down 2 touchdowns, and then J.J. Watt comes in and gets a couple of big sacks. I just think Houston's going to win that game. Bears at Dolphins, I got to go Bears. The Bears are coming off a bye this week. They're going into Miami. I just think Mitchell Trubisky is going to have fun against this defense. Miami, I know, did start off 3-0 this year, but they're not really a 3-0 team. They're not the Rams or they're not the Chiefs. Dolphins I just don't think they win at home. That crowd doesn't really get into it as loud as everyone else. When I say, we're going to Miami, I don't really think that of that as intimidating as if we were going to Green Bay, Seattle, Dallas. Those big name teams, I just don't think the home field advantage is that much for the Dolphins, so I got to go Bears. Rams at Broncos, I got to go Rams. It's hard to pick against the Rams when they're undefeated, playing all these good games, playing these good teams. That offense is electric. That defense, they're gonna go far in the NFC this year. The very well could be the NFC representatives for the Super Bowl this year is going to be the Rams, and the Chiefs very well could be the AFC. I know they're not playing the Chiefs, but I just want to bring them up because they're both undefeated, both in opposite division conferences. I just think that could be the Super Bowl this year. So I got to go Rams against these Broncos. I don't think the Broncos get anything going. I don't think Denver scores more than 10 points this week. Ravens at Titans. After how Baltimore played last week, it kind of scared me. But I got to go Baltimore because I just think that defense is going to stop Mariota. Who else does Mariota have on offense? Yeah, exactly. That long pause. I know he has Derrick Henry, Deion Lewis, but on the outside, I know they have some decent fantasy receivers, but I don't really know how good they are overall in general. I just like the offense of the Baltimore Ravens: Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead, John Brown, Alex Collins. I think Joe Flacco gets some deep balls going this game. They maintain who they are. They move to forward too. This next game, Jaguars at Cowboys. I gotta go Jaguars. I almost said Cowboys. That could bite me in the ass, but I think the Jaguars are gonna whoop on these Cowboys. I don't think the Cowboys are really that big of a threat this year, other than Ezekiel Elliott. I just don't think the Dallas Cowboys can beat this defense. I don't think they're gonna get that many rush yards, let alone pass yards. Jalen Ramsey could have a pick. Boye could have a pick. A defensive lineman could get a pick because Dak Prescott likes to throw at 10 yards, and if a defensive lineman falls back, easy picks for him. So moving into the Sunday night game, which I think is going to be a really good game, Chiefs at Patriots. I'm going Chiefs. I know a lot of people say it's in Foxborough. It's a big difference, but I just don't think that's that big of a difference to these Chiefs. I think this offense is just fantastic. I don't think the Patriots can stop them unless they keep up with them and get maybe a punt out of them. I think that's the only way they win this game. Chiefs are going to score almost every possession, I believe. So I got to go Chiefs. 49ers at Green Bay Packers for Monday night. I got to go Green Bay. I hope Green Bay wins this game because I'm picking them. And for the sake of Green Bay, last week they lost a heartbreaker, but I don't think the 49ers can beat these Green Bay Packers. I think the last time these two teams met was the Kaepernick days. I think that was the game where Kaepernick ran for like 150 yards. They don't have Kaepernick anymore. They don't have Frank Gore anymore. They don't got Delaney Walker anymore. Michael Crabtree. These are not the same 49ers, but they do got, some guys on defense, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to expose them. They're all young. I think the veterans really kind of solidify who they are and what they are this week. So I got to go Green Bay this game. Now, finally moving into the last part of the show, I just want to talk about some NBA headlines. Before we head out and end this podcast, I just want to talk about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, again, he's been like a headline every past week because the NBA hasn't really started yet, so I don't really have much to talk about. But Jimmy Butler is being a drama queen. I know the NBA is known for being drama-ridden, but he is running his mouth. He really wants out of Minnesota. He does have a point, though. He did say, you need me, essentially, to the coach out loud in front of the whole practice. And he's not wrong. But he also did go and say Cat is the most talented player. God-gifted ability is Andrew Wiggins, and he plays the hardest. I do believe that, too. But I just don't think Jimmy Butler should be making this big of a deal. I don't think teams are going to want that. I know Jimmy Butler's phenomenal, but is he going to be that big of a deal? I don't know. Is a big team like the Lakers, the Warriors, Celtics, are those teams going to want him? The Rockets could very well get him. And if the Rockets get Jimmy Butler, I'm almost going to get hurt by that more than when KD went to the Warriors. I'm honest, because if they get Jimmy Butler, Chris Paul, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, God, what's his name? I'm totally blanking out here. Clint Capella. If that team, it would be phenomenal. I think that would be enough to beat the Warriors. They almost beat them without him, but they did have Ariza, so they do kind of need to fill that gap. Ariza was a big part of that team, and a lot of people will ignore that. But I think Trevor Ariza going to the Suns is going to be a big loss for the Rockets. I know it's a little late, but I think that's 100% true. Moving into the LeBron segment, you got to talk about LeBron whenever you talk about the NBA. I think he played really good with Lance against the Warriors. I think they got some chemistry going. JaVale McGee had some big plays. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. I know some people think they're going to go to the championship. And I know some people who think they're barely going to get 20 wins. I think they're going to get 49 wins this year in the West. I think they're going to be third or fourth seed. They're going to be better than most teams in the West just because of number 23. And I think that energy of LeBron is going to affect everyone else this year in LA. I think that's going to be pretty cool. New York Knicks got some new uniforms. They look pretty cool. I like them. They're a little shiny. That was a big headline I saw. 6 more days till the season starts, so we're kind of scraping the barrel here. Moving into the Sonics at KD game, when KD went to the Key Arena and he wore the Sean Kemp jersey against the Kings, that was pretty cool. I just wish, they need to save those Sonics, man. I'm from Seattle. I was a huge Sonics fan growing up, and then when they got taken away, I didn't know what team to really follow anymore. So I just went with the Spurs, and I just think KD showing some light and letting the Seattle fans know that he's there was really cool. And I think Seattle has a chance to get a team back eventually, because Memphis team's up for sale in 2021, so that could happen. I just hope Memphis doesn't honey dick Seattle, say like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you guys Seattle, and then we're gonna buy a new stadium, then we're gonna be here for another 10 years. I really hope the Sonics come back. Or just an expansion. Bring that team. Give let's see, who doesn't have a team? Montana a team. They don't have a team. They've been rooting for college teams for 10, I don't know, longer than my existence. And then to wrap it up, I want to just say the Spurs are screwed. They lost Lonnie Walker, both him and DeJounte Murray, for some significant amount of time. Sorry, I am off today. DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker are huge pieces of San Antonio Spurs, and for them to go out this early in the season is a deal breaker. I think both those two guys were going to be very well coming off the bench, do very well coming off the bench, and I just think losing those two guys is going to be bigger than people think. DeJounte Murray is the starting guard. Manu and Tony Parker are both gone, and he's going to have majority of those minutes, and now he's not going to get any minutes. I really hope he bounces back. I know a lot of people don't bounce back from that type of injury, but I think DeJounte Murray is going to be that guy for the Spurs, and I just think losing those two guys is going to be a significant loss because they're going to come in, put in some good bench points for Pop, and I know Pop really likes those bench points, and especially from Lonnie Walker, I know DeJounte Murray would start, and that defensive key up front is going to be a big loss for them. When they were playing the Golden State Warriors, he played a very good part in defense. So that loss is just, I feel for the Spurs in that one because I know I don't wish injuries upon anyone, especially my San Antonio Spurs. Moving into the last part of the show, I just want to say thank you guys for listening. Follow us on @WeeklyTake on Instagram. This episode will be posted on YouTube, SoundCloud, and those two will be posted. And I just, again, want to thank you guys for listening. It means the world, and have a great one.